Hello, would you mind joining me on the bus for my pre-trip inspection? First thing I'll check is the seat. I'll make sure it is securely fastened. It is not cracked, broken, or damaged. Next, I will put on my seat belt. I'll check the belt and make sure it's not broken, damaged, frayed, or twisted. It is not. Make sure that it clicks into place, and it does. All right. Next, we're going to do my air brake test. I'd like to start with performing my air brake tests, and I will do that with a safe start. I'm now making sure that all necessary lights go off, and then I will start the bus. Okay, so now I'm going to start the bus. Now I'm going to inspect that the air gauge is working and building up the air pressure to the governor cutoff, which is approximately 120 to 140 psi, and identify the cutoff pressure. I'm going to turn my high idle on. And wait for the governor to go up to the required pressure, which is between 120 and 140 psi. And this sound that you just heard was the governor activating, and now the PSI is stable at 120. So that test worked as expected. Next, I will do the rate of leakage test, and I will start by shutting off the bus. I will leave the key in the safe to start position, and I'm going to release the parking brake. Going to fully apply the service brake, and after the initial drop, I'm going to inspect the air gauge to see if pressure doesn't drop more than 3 psi's in a minute. So at this time, I will take out my phone and I will record for 1 minute to make sure that the air pressure does not drop. Pretending of taking out phone. 1 minute has passed. Air pressure. Okay, the 1 minute has passed and the air pressure has not dropped. So that test is complete. Next, I will do the spring brake test. I will continue fanning off the air pressure, and somewhere between 20 and 40 psi's, the parking brake knob is going to pop, indicating that the spring brake is on. All right, the next test we're going to perform is the low pressure warning test. I will begin fanning off the air pressure by applying and releasing the service brake, the low pressure warning buzzer, and light will come on around 60 psi's. And there is the right tank, and there is the left, or rear tank and front tank. I'm going to continue fanning the brakes, and somewhere between 20 to 40 psi's, the parking knob is going to pop, indicating that the spring brake is on. And there was the pop. So that test worked. All right, before I can test my parking and service brakes, I need to build the pressure back up in the system, so I'll need to start my bus in order to do so. So I will go to the safe start. You'll see my ABS light comes on, and then it goes off, as it should, so there's no problem with that. I'm going to start the bus. I'm going to put my high idle on, so that will build the air pressure up a little bit faster. And while we're waiting for the air pressure to build back up, I'm going to test my light indicators and my controls. So we're going to start with my headlights are on, my high beam indicator is on, my left turn signal is on, my right turn signal is on, my hazards are on. And that hissing sound you just heard, that was the governor shutting off, the governor activating to shut off the compressor. So now I'm going to come over here and check my lighting indicators on the dash over on my left. I'm going to make sure that my master is on. Going to activate my amber indicator light. It works. Going to put my service door knob in the middle position, which activates my 8-way red indicator light. So that is working. Alright, next I'm going to inspect the windshield and my traffic monitoring devices. The windshield, it is clean with no obstructions except for the inspection stickers. It is not cracked, damaged, or flaws to the glass. Now I'm going to inspect my driver's side mirror. It is also not damaged, no cracks or flaws to the glass. It is also adjusted properly from the inside. I'm going to inspect my service door mirror. It is also not damaged with no cracks or flaws to the glass, and it is adjusted properly from the inside. Next, I'm going to inspect my wipers and washers. I'm going to inspect that the wiper arms and blades are secure, they are the proper tension, they are not damaged, and wipers work when turned on, and washer fluid sprays when activated. There is the washer fluid, the multiple speeds are all good, and they work. Now I'm going to inspect here on my left both rear heaters, off, low, high, off, low, high. Going to inspect my step heater, off, low, high. I'm going to check my defrost, off, low, medium, high. It's blowing. I'm going to inspect my defrost fans, one on my right, one on my left. Low, high, and on the right, off, low, high. Next I'm going to inspect my horn works, and I'm going to turn my high idle off. Now we're going to proceed with the parking brake test as we have adequate air pressure now. With my parking brake on and my foot lightly hitting the service brake, I'm going to place the gear shift into drive. I'm going to remove my foot from the service brake and I'm going to press on the accelerator. The bus should not move, and it doesn't. Going to put the gear shift back into neutral. Now I'm going to do my service brake test. I'm going to shift the gear shift into drive, going to release the parking brake, and I'm going to pull forward at 5 miles per hour and apply the service brake and make sure I come to a complete stop. I'm also going to make sure that the vehicle does not pull to either side, and it did not. And the vehicle did come to a complete stop as expected. Going to put the parking brake back on and the gear shift into neutral. Alright, I'm going to leave my bus running, and now I'm going to inspect my emergency equipment. First, we're going to start with my first aid kit. As you'll see, it is my first aid kit and my body fluid kit. As you see, they are both securely mounted and they are both fully stocked. Next, we're going to come down here to my fire extinguisher. You can see that it is securely mounted and it is properly dated, rated, and charged. Now you'll see down here on the floor is the red pry bar securely mounted to the floor. Now you'll see here my reflective red triangles. There's 3 reflective red triangles and they are inside the box, and the box is securely mounted to the floor. Next, we're going to inspect the passenger entry. The handrails are securely mounted. The step tread, it is securely mounted. The tread is not loose or worn. Nothing here is creating a tripping hazard. My step light. My step light here, it is secure, lenses of the proper color. It is clean, not missing or broken, and later we will show that it works. Next, we're going to inspect the passenger seating and emergency exits. The seat frames are firmly attached to the floor, and then on our return back to the front, we're going to make sure that the seat cushions are firmly attached to the frame. They are securely fastened. Alright, next we are going to inspect the emergency window. The emergency window is clearly labeled. When lifting the release handle and opening the window, the buzzer comes on, window fully opens and closes, and the buzzer goes off when placing the release lever back into place. Now I'm going to inspect my emergency door. I'm going to inspect that the door is properly labeled and that it, when open, the buzzer comes on, that the door fully opens, locks into place, is not damaged, the gasket is in place, and closes securely when shut, and the buzzer goes off. Now I'm going to inspect my emergency roof hatch. I'm going to inspect that the emergency roof hatch is clearly labeled. I'm going to make sure it opens when pushed up. When latch is turned to exit. Okay. That it opens up when pushed up, and when latch is turned to exit, it releases. Then the buzzer comes on and then goes off when hatch is properly attached and latch is turned to latched, and that the hatch then closes properly when closed. And the buzzer goes off when the hatch is properly attached and latch is turned to the latched position, which is closed. We're now going to go up front, and I'm going to have a seat in the driver's seat. I'm going to put my seatbelt on. Now I'm going to inspect my passenger mirror. I'm going to inspect that the passenger mirror is securely attached. It is clean, and there are no missing parts, as you can see from the back of the bus to the back of the seat behind me. I'm now going to inspect my service door. I'm going to inspect that the entry door is not damaged, that it opens smoothly, and closes securely from the inside. However, I'd like to point out to now the step light has now illuminated and is of the proper color, and that the service door closes securely from the inside. Okay, now we're going to do the external light inspection. Examiner, I would ask to have you assist me. If you can please exit the bus. Going to shut the door. Going to turn my headlights off. And the master switch is on. Going to open up the driver's window. And I'm verbally going to tell the tester which lights I'm going to inspect. Okay, inspector. The headlights and clearance lights high beams, low beams, left turn signal, right turn signal, four-way hazard lights. Oops, don't honk the horn. And my amber lights. You can see them in that mirror. You see them flashing? Mm-hmm. Okay. And my reds. All right, examiner, please go to the driver's side of the bus. Now I'm going to have you check my clearance lights, my left turn signal, my four-way hazard light, and my stop arm light. Examiner, please go to the rear of the bus. I'm going to have you inspect my clearance lights, my parking lights, my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my four-way hazards, my brake lights, and my reverse lights. Examiner, please go to the service door side of the bus. I'm going to open my service door. Examiner, please check my clearance lights, my right turn signal, my four-way hazard light, and my door light, which the door light activates as soon as the door is open. Okay, inspector, at this time I'm going to join you on the outside of the bus. I'm going to close my service door. I'm going to turn my bus off. I'm going to stand up and open the emergency release. And I'm going to go back and activate the child check. I'm going to exit the bus with my front facing forward. And I'm going to just push open the door. Okay, now we're going to do the external bus inspection. For that, I'm going to need the tread checker and air pressure gauge out of the dash. I'm also going to show the examiner the spare fuses. Here are my spare fuses. I will put the spare fuses back inside the glove box and keep my tread checker and air gauge in my pocket. And we are going to go to the front of the bus. Here we will check that the bus is level and is not leaning to the right and is not leaning to the left. And we will also take note underneath that there are no puddles, and that means that there is no leaking. First, we will start with the inspection of the lenses. We're going to inspect at the top the 3 amber clearance light lenses. We have our 8-way lenses with amber on the outside, red in the middle. Okay, here it's the opposite, but on the bus I'm learning on, it'll be right. I was just looking at that, it's like amber is not on the outside. All right, I'm going to inspect my amber turn signal, 4-way hazard hood marker lens. I'm going to inspect my headlight turn signal, 4-way hazard assembly lenses. They are all of the proper colors. They are clean, they are not broken and not missing. Next, I'm going to inspect my cross arm. I'm going to inspect that it is securely mounted. It is not cracked, damaged, or broken and swings freely. Next, I'm going to inspect my cross view mirrors. I'm going to inspect that the mirrors are clean. They are not damaged or broken. The brackets are securely attached to the front of the bus, and there are no missing or loose bolts. I'm going to check my traffic control mirrors. They're also clean. They are not damaged or broken. The brackets are securely attached to the bus, and there are no loose or missing bolts. Alright, next I would like to inspect the critical items that are located under the hood. First, we will look again to see that there are no puddles on the ground, which would indicate something is leaking. We're also going to look to see that there is no dripping fluids around and on the underside of the engine and transmission. And there is nothing leaking. First, we will look at our coolant system. We are inspecting for condition, that the reservoir is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, not cracked, damaged, or broken or leaking, that all hoses are properly attached, are not worn or damaged or leaking. We're going to look at the coolant inside the reservoir and inspect to make sure that there is adequate fluid, and then that the fluid is between the cold and hot lines. Now we're going to check our windshield washer fluid. We're going to inspect that the reservoir is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, not cracked, damaged, broken, or leaking, and that the hoses are properly attached and are not worn, damaged, or leaking. Now here we have our oil and transmission fluid. If I were to check, I would pull out their dipsticks, clean them off, reinsert them, pull them back out, and they would read between add and full. For checking the engine oil, the bus should be off, and for checking the transmission fluid, the bus should be on. Next, we're going to look at our power steering fluid. We're going to inspect the power steering system, the reservoir, the hoses, and the fluid. We're inspecting for condition, that the reservoir is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, not cracked, damaged, broken, or leaking, and that the hoses are properly attached and are not worn, damaged, or leaking. We're going to check the fluid level and can see from the side of the reservoir that there is adequate fluid. But if would check using the dipstick, would pull out the dipstick, clean it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, and it would read between add and full. We're going to inspect all of our air lines and hoses. We're going to inspect the air lines and hoses for condition, that they're not worn out, not damaged, or not frayed, and we will listen for air leaks. Next, we're going to inspect the steering system. We're going to inspect the steering shaft. We're going to make sure that it does not have more than 10 degrees of play. We're going to inspect the steering box. We're going to inspect the pitman arm. We're going to inspect the drag link. And down here, we're going to inspect the tie rod. All are securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, are not cracked, damaged, or broken joints, and sockets are not worn or loose, and that cotter keys are all in place. The steering box is not leaking. The hoses are securely attached and are not worn, damaged, or leaking. And the shaft doesn't have more than 10 degrees of play in it. Next, we're going to inspect the tire. We're going to inspect tire inflation. And you also see here that the valve stem is straight and it has a metal cap. Remove metal cap, and I'll get my air gauge out of my pocket and I'll test the air gauge. And the air gauge reads at 90 psi, which is normal. I will replace my metal cap. And when checking the air pressure, we're going to make sure that it is between 90 and 100 psi, and it is. Next, we're going to check tire condition. We're going to inspect the wall of the tire to make sure there are no ABCs, which is abrasions, bulges, or cuts in the sidewalls. Now we're going to take our tread checker out of our pocket, and we're going to inspect the tread depth. We're going to inspect that the minimum tread depth on the front tires is at least 4/30 seconds. For each inspection, you're resetting the tread checker. And they are at least 4/30 seconds. And if I was to check all the others on the rear, they would have to be at least 2/30 seconds. And you can also see that the tire tread is evenly worn. Next, we're going to inspect the rim for any damage, cracks, or dents. We're going to inspect it for any illegal welds, except for factory welds. Rims cannot have any other welds. We're going to inspect for rust trails that may indicate that the rim is loose. We're also going to listen for air leaks and inspect for any gaps between the tire and rim. We're going to inspect the bolt and stud holes to make sure they are not elongated and that there are no missing bolts. Next, we will check to make sure all lug nuts are present, that they are not loose. There are no signs of rust or shiny threads that would indicate that there is a loose nut. Also inspecting that there are no broken studs. Cut. All right, we're going to inspect that, make sure that the bus is not leaning side to side, and it is not. We're also going to inspect that the bus is not leaning front to rear, and it is not. We're going to inspect the front and rear spring mounts. Which I'm not sure exactly what those are. So I'll figure that out later. I think it might be these. Let's say these might be the spring mounts. I know the leaf springs and the U-bolts and the shock absorber. I'm inspecting to make sure they are all securely attached, no loose or missing bolts, that the leaf springs are not missing, cracked, broken, or shifted, and the absorber is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, and is not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Next, I'm going to inspect the air brake lines and hoses for leaks. Here are the air brake lines and hoses. There are no cracks, damage, or leaking. I'm also going to inspect that all the hoses and line couplings and fittings are secure, which they are. Next, we're going to come back here and check for brake contaminants. If the dust cover would be removed, we would inspect for contaminants such as grease or oil on the brake linings or pads, and the brake drum or disc that can affect braking capabilities. Alright, at this time I'm going to close the hood. I will go onto the surface door side and release the safety latch. Alright, safety latch is released. Close the hood. And securely fasten it. Next, we are going to go to the driver's side of the bus, and we are going to inspect the lenses. We are going to inspect the 3 clearance lenses. We have 2 amber clearance lenses before the doles and 1 red clearance lens after the doles. We now have our amber turn signal and our 4-way hazard marker lens. It is of proper color, it is clean, not missing, and not broken. Now we have our reflectors, orange before the doles and red after the doles. They are securely attached, not peeling or lifting. We're going to inspect the stop arm. It is securely mounted. Lenses are not cracked, damaged, broken, or missing, and are of the correct color. We are going to inspect the battery. All batteries are securely mounted. All connections are tight and show no sign of excessive corrosion. All electrical cables and lines are secure and not cracked or worn. Next, we're going to inspect our traffic monitoring devices. We're making sure that the mirrors are clean, not cracked, damaged, or broken. The mirror brackets are not bent and are mounted securely with no missing parts. Down here, we will inspect the frame. And we will inspect the cross member. We are inspecting that there are no cracks, no broken welds, no holes, or other damage. Alright, now we are here at the rear of the bus. We are going to inspect our 3 red clearance lenses, our 8-way lenses, amber on the outside, red in the middle, 2 amber turn signals, 4-way hazard lights, 4-way hazard light lenses, 2 upper and 2 bottom red brake tail light lenses, and 2 clear reverse light lenses. All are the proper color, clean, securely mounted, not cracked, damaged, broken, or missing. 2 red reflectors are securely mounted, not peeling or lifting. The emergency exit door, it is properly labeled and marked with reflective tape that is not peeling or lifting. The bolts and hinges are in place. They're not broken or damaged. And the door opens. Locks in place and releases and shuts securely. Next is the fuel tank. We will inspect to make sure that it is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Lines are secure and no leaks. The fuel cage is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts, not cracked, damaged, or broken. And there is no puddle on the ground, so there is no leakage from the fuel line. Now to the service door side of the bus. We're going to inspect the fuel cap. We're going to inspect to make sure that the gasket is in place and that the cap is on tight. Next, we're going to inspect the DEF tank to make sure that it's securely mounted. No loose or missing bolts, that it is not damaged, cracked, or leaking. We're going to check the cap and make sure that the gasket is in place and that the cap is on tight. And that the lines and hoses are securely attached and not leaking. And that would be by evidence if there was any puddles on the ground, and there are not. Next, we will inspect the door light lens to make sure that the lens is of the proper color, is clean, and is not damaged or missing. The service door. It is securely mounted, no loose or missing bolts. Gaskets are in place. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged. And the glass is clean. Our traffic monitoring device. It is clean, not cracked, broken, or damaged. The brackets are not bent, are mounted securely with no missing parts. This concludes Pretrip.